Hey man, I just can't find a comfortable headset. I mean, I've tried everything. Literally everything.
Sheesh, my brother. I got you.
The HyperX Cloud 2 Wireless. Legendary comfort goes wireless.
That is comfortable.
Welcome back, everybody, to the NECC here in Week 7 of Overwatch. We've got Game 4 today. My name is Infernosis, joined here by Neely, who was here earlier today with Yelgrip, if I remember correctly. And now we get to have a fun time with me, but we're going to have a very nice matchup. Why don't you tell us a little bit about the two teams we have here?
Well, we're going to be starting off with St. Ambrose and University of Southern Mississippi. It's looking like St. Ambrose is going to stick towards that brawl style. And what I saw about Southern Mississippi was that they like to play ball comps. I don't know if that's what they're actually going to play. You know, I think they might like them. Maybe they favor them more, but they can play brawl. I looked at their hero pools and they play everything. And Brawl is very, very strong right now. So I would imagine we'd be seeing some Brawl mirrors on a bunch of these maps that we have coming up today.
I'm really looking forward to this one. Obviously, we've got a couple notes about the teams coming through, like you said, that ball comp that's kind of favored. And as well, we don't really have any information in terms of normal strategies for St. Ambrose besides the fact that they like to play kind of brawling and rushing in pretty swiftly. We do know that Alyssa, who's on the team, is graduating soon. I think that's one of the notes we have. And if we're going to talk about that as well, then we also have Jacob, who's on the team here. His name is EG Jacob. We're just call him Jacob here. EG actually stands for something pretty special here. It stands for Epic Gamer. So he's starting off pretty strong immediately. But we'll have to see how this one pans out here. I'm looking forward to this matchup here, obviously, because the last match I just casted, had the pleasure of casting with Unicorn for, was CSUDH versus the side of Loggers Poggers Lincoln Land, who University of Southern Mississippi has beaten both. And if they can beat CSUDH, who was a team that I looked at and go, you are scary, then I'm looking forward to the fear that University of Southern Mississippi is going to put in my eyes. So I think we're going to have a pretty good matchup here.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to look at like the the stats here, St. Ambrose is 1-5, and Southern Mississippi is 5-1. But Southern Mississippi isn't. They're not coming out here and just 3-0ing absolutely everybody. A lot of 2-1s, only 2 3-0s, and the same thing for St. Ambrose is they're not getting 3-0 swept every single time. They're taking a map, so you come together and play, and then one team doesn't show up as much as they need to, and this game could really go either way. You only got to win 2 maps. It's not like you got to win all 3. So anybody's game, honestly, today. And with Brawl being better in the meta these days, and that being St. Ambrose's comp, it could prove to have some dividends. Jeez, gonna get that out.
I'll tell you what, we're going to have to struggle to see getting out here. A lot of ultimates. That's kind of been like the fear of the day, especially. I don't know if, did you watch the last match at all?
I was not around for that. Eating dinner.
Unfortunate. That was such a good game. We did see the side of Loggers Poggers Lincoln Land struggle to get their ultimates out. When they did get them out on the control points in the Legion Tower map, they were nailing them out. They were securing the control point every time, and then they'd lose it. They were winning off of their ultimates and failing in the actual fights, and it became a really hard struggle for them to continue going forward, and it was ultimately taken by the opposing side of CSUDH. So we're going to have to see how well these sides fare, if they're going to have to rely on their ultimates to kind of secure the bag or secure the objective, or if they're just going to be able to take it out and brawl it out from the get-go. I'm expecting pretty good things from both sides, though.
Well, you're always going to need your ultimates to win fights. The question is how many you're going to use. If you have to use 4 to win a fight, I mean, you kind of have to win that fight where you invest all your ultimates, So it's if you can use them and keep your economy. If you can use some ults and then keep some to defend on the next fight. If you have to blow 5, you're probably just going to get walked right over, just like you walked over them on the last one. But here we are on Control Center, everyone's favorite little brawl map, and it looks like both teams are going to be rolling out on it here.
Looking forward to what we're going to have. We do see the Symmetras. Like, this is something very normal, especially for this just entire map, not just these rounds, these smaller maps, but you do see Symmetras very often. They come through, teleport, get a little bit quicker, brawl out a little bit quicker as well, and both sides kind of favored kind of going for that. We know one side, the Southern Mississippi side, kind of favored the ball, and they say they don't force it, so we're not actually going to see that just yet. Instead, they are opting for the kind of normalized, brawl composition, the Reinhardt up in front, and you can rotate between a D.Va and, of course, the Zarya as well. But the fight immediately engaged. Sinfax finding 2 onto Elvin Dunn and Riot, but will going to be Agent who falls to Brusku. Sinfax on another 2, finding Bruce and Sloppy. And absolutely starting off strong. Sinfax on a 4K, almost a 5K. It'll be Ark who finds Jacob instead, and absolutely devastating work right off the bat.
Yeah, Junkrat's great on this point. Everybody goes right to that little hallway, and Junkrat doesn't really have to do a whole lot of aim, and he just lobs in all those mines, and he's going to find a lot of damage. I'm surprised he only has 43% of his ult here, so obviously his team was able to get a little damage of their own.
Absolutely. Push already going off, having to engage. St. Ambrose taking that one quite well for themselves, but a shatter connects from Ark, finding so many as Max and Ark are able to secure 2 kills on a Riot and Elvin Dunn. You also see Agent who does find Bruce as well, and now Ark will finish up what needs to be done. Sloppy falling as well to the hammer towing man himself. And it's just going to be cleaned up. Southern Mississippi need to find an answer to the aggression that they're coming through. They have a shatter as well from Bruce, but they'll fall to a Zeros, and it's going to continue the aggression going forward. There is a teleport that is now denied, but That garage door is a threat. It will be eventually, you know, time will run out on it, but it's such a threat to look at that if you are the USM side.
Yeah, it looks like SAU has just come out here flying. No one's tired on this team. All get pedal to the metal here. Window coming out early, and it's going to push Arc back, loses his shield, but he's going to regroup here and get the Emor.
You do have a Riptire that does come out. It's from Synfax finding in a Sloppy, and Jacob high noon Synfax in return. A Shatter finding from Bruce, connecting to everyone, and it'll devastate as USM will secure this one. Elvin Dunn and Jacob absolutely throttling in the kill feed right there. And while you do still have an ult of that Symmetra, you can cut off the map in half, or, you know, divide it, as they do say. You are going to have to worry about that Lucio ult. Juicebox does have the ability to drop the beat and can make it difficult for the St. Ambrose side to really secure any kills.
Yeah, and it's been all Earth Shatters. No one's blocking these so far, which, you know, when you're watching, you like to see, but you'd like to see if you blocked early wall coming out here. Bruce is going to be able to just play right up on that thing. Another wall cutting the point right in half. This is so many colors on the point here, and they're all just going to kind of play really slow. Window coming out. Shatter finds the backline onto Jacob. Going to take him out quickly.
Devastation. Sloppy onto Synfax. Continuing to charge does come through as well. He'll turn and successfully block into Shatter in return. Finding as the Graviton also comes out, swinging to win. Arc finds one on a Bruscus, who had just found Max, and it's going both directions. Fight continuing to engage as Sloppy will find Arc out in the process. Immortality Field devastated, and Sloppy continues the spree, finishing off Azura and Alyssa. She'll just take a drink instead, jumping off the map, not wanting to stay alive much longer. Not much she can do, holding out and wasting that respawn.
There's a ton of ults. Nobody is going to have any ults. And if Alyssa was even close to bomb, which I'm not sure if it got used there, is going to opt to go for the Zarya pick. Either way, mirror the Zarya of Sloppy Jalopy here.
You know that Graviton came out somewhat recently, so you could be not too far behind when it comes in charging. You're only 15% behind, but a high noon from behind. It'll be Jacob trying to play it out, but it'll be Bruscus who finds three, just swinging away, absolutely finding everything. And USM have definitely been able to find themselves here, struggling at the beginning, but right now winning every engagement they can.
Yeah, Synfax is going to be looking to hit this Riptide here, but Bruscus has been 100 for 100 on hitting these Shatters. Can he do it again? Finds the backline. Only going to get one, though. Entire gets shot out. Another Shatter going the other way. Arc pins up Jacob, trying to find anything, but SAU is so split right now.
Not a good position. Elvin does manage to find out Arc, but it doesn't look like it's going to matter because Riot as well taking Azur. Alyssa, she'll find one, but it not looking like it's going to matter because Sloppy will take out Max, and you'll fall as well to Juicebox. And it looks like USM's going to take this one, as we do see Synfax is going to touch. Arc has now switched over to the ball as well to maybe get a little bit of time on the point to contest and deny, just swinging away. And does buy time for Azur to step up and be able to secure, but it still looks like USM's going to take it, and they in fact do. So they'll secure this first round, putting themselves up in a 1-0. A phenomenal one to behold, back and forth the entire time.
I hope the rest of the game is going to be like that, because that was very back and forth. Southern Mississippi started to dominate a little bit at the end, but I thought St. Ambrose was going to take that in the 99 sweep right there. They just kept engaging with ultimates, using things quickly, pushing the initiative. And when you're doing that, especially in a rush comp, when you already have positional advantage, sometimes that's really hard to shut down, even with ultimates. But Mississippi's going to swing it back, take the point, and kind of start to dominate overall on that first objective.
Absolutely. There's nothing else you would rather see in that situation than the comeback that came through from USM. Like you said, I predicted SAU to kind of hold on a little bit more. They did a phenomenal job of playing that aggression right off the bat, but we're already seeing a ball is coming out from Arc. They had switched this toward the end, and already is going to fall. A stun coming from the McCree player of Jacob, and finished off by Bruscus. Might need to switch off that ball, getting already shut down pretty early on. Maybe opt to go back to that Reinhardt and Brawl the same way you were previously back on the objective.
Yeah, but the problem is that they switched this whole comp up to play dive. If you just put a Reinhardt on, you're going to have Ana, Mercy, you know, and this Echo. They just don't really do the same things. They're going to keep that ball and try to get these spins going, get these slams on point.
They're going to need to find something. Ark's been taking a lot of damage and barely been able to stay alive already. Alyssa now knocked out of the mech and now relegated to having to be done. A slam will come through, but Bruce Goose finds Synfax and it'll be cleaned up. Jacob on a max, Elvin done onto Ark, and just finding it, the absolute front line of Bruce Goose and Slappy will clean up onto the back line. And of course, Alyssa, who was knocked out of mech. And once again, another fight going in favor of the University of Southern Mississippi. Needing an answer is St. Ambrose. They need to find the solution, and they're going to try and make that with Ark switching now onto the Winston.
Yeah, the problem is St. Ambrose has to engage over that bridge. They're going to walk through this tiny little choke on the left, and they're just going to get spammed out, and then they're going to have to just walk onto the point, take a brawl, which Mississippi is more than willing to take a brawl with you at this point. So you got to engage over that bridge and try to open them up a bit. This is going to be a hard spot to push in.
Especially with those Symmetra turrets that are placed out. You do have a boost coming from Azura as well as the Valkyrie from Agent, but a high noon from Jacob could be devastating, while Bruce's hack does have Shatter and can drop it at any moment, but doesn't need it to win against Synfax. Swings to find it, Max on the right, finding just a consolation prize, but immediately refragged by Juicebox. And it's once again all red in the kill feed. Southern Mississippi finding everything, and now a 0 to 73% differential. You have about one more fight if you're St. Ambrose, and you definitely need an answer to it, because now you don't have any supporting ultimates and you're going to have to rely on that Winston Rage, a nice EMP if you can even get it charged, and a duplicate. And who are you going to duplicate to?
Yeah, you're going to have to go for the duplicate Ryan here. Maybe just, if you're going to go this way, you need to get a brawl going, but they're going to be playing into so many ults because Mississippi has not been forced to use them. Dive coming out early though, trying to open up some space.
They're going to go ahead and go in. We do see that they do switch over and go for the Ryan as well. Synfax has the Shatter. It doesn't seem to matter. Retrading out by Bruce, who will connect onto a few, and they'll continue to swing. EMP dropped by Max, but it's not going to matter. You don't need abilities when you're a Reinhardt who holds left click and W, and USM will decisively take this second one 100% to 0.
Yeah, that was rather decisive on that map. I mean, I'm not a big fan of bridges. It's called Gardens, but there's those two bridges. It's just not a very fun map for me, but I love Control Center, and I liked what we got to see on Control Center. I'm guessing, yes, we're going to get to see Bruce on Control Center lay down 5 and just absolutely cleave them all down. Pretty big. But what do you think we're going to be seeing here going into the next two maps? Will we have some close Overwatch like that first map?
Control point is the name of the game. You have to take it on Blizzard World. You have to take that first point before you can get into that payload phase, the escort phase. And quite frankly, from the side of what we've seen from SAU, they have the potential. If they can get to it first and decisively win that first battle, it may be their game. But the issue is when you're on the attack, the defense is already on it. They're already holding that. And every time we've seen that, USM have held it. If they have the objective held and are holding on tight and anchoring, or turtling as we say in R6, they've won it every time. And it's something that SAU has not found an answer to just yet. And we haven't even seen University of Southern Mississippi's best strategy. We haven't even seen their ball come out. We haven't seen their favored play. And that kind of shows the difference between these two sites, beating them at their own game, that brawl composition that Ambrose favors. Southern Mississippi says, we got this. We can do that just as well, if not better. And you have to have a nice brawl, or at least a competent DPS line to secure some kills early on if you want any chance of taking that initial control point on this hybrid objective.
Yeah, I feel like USM at this point is, if you just look at how those rounds went, why would you switch to the ball? Why would you change up what's already kind of working super well for you? And if you go to a dive map, it's not like they're going to have any issue dealing with St. Ambrose's dive. They've handled it time and time again. And as you did say, once they capped an objective, St. Ambrose was not able to answer the door. So we're going to have to see what we see on First Point Blizzard World here. I feel like they're going to be able to cap it. But the problem is with Defender's advantage, Mississippi has been lights out. Every time they've owned the point, it's been really hard to shake them off of it. I would like St. Ambrose to just stick to the brawl. It seems to be what they are better at. That Junkrat pick right out the gate is what kind of gave them everything that they had on Control Center.
So if we don't see any defining roster changes for the USM side, what can St. Ambrose do to counter that? What can they do? What answer can they bring to the table to, figure out what's going to work? Because if we don't change anything for USM, what do they need to do to fix this? And I'm asking this to you because you're much bigger brained than I am. I am very smooth around the brain, and I just want to go into that wrinkled brain of yours and figure out what's rattling in there.
Well, I'll try to take a look into it. I'd like to see some May. I don't know if anyone's got that in their hero pool, but since there was so much sim getting played and nobody switched off it, even on Control Center, which it's a decent sim map, but I don't always see it. It's usually the other 2 points on Lijiang that are very sim dominated. But they played sim there, so sim, maybe a little May Cree. I haven't seen any McCree on the side of St. Ambrose. He's such a good character right now. I'd like to see maybe a May Cree, because every Ryan, no matter how good he is, Bruce is looking amazing out there. But if you put a May on him, he's just going to get slowed down. He's going to get walls behind him. He's going to be forced to just think a lot more rather than just push it with his team and play the game. So if you can kind of get inside of Bruce Goose's head, you might find some cracks in the armor here.
You definitely need to be able to wiggle room and find that wiggle room and really exploit it. Step into the backside, really force them to spread out, not to be in a comfortable position. Maybe that's really all you need to force USM to become uncomfortable. Force them to play something they're not really comfortable with doing, and maybe that's the answer you have going forward. Will that be enough to determine yourselves a victory? Who knows? Honestly, it might just continue to go in USM's favor. It was looking close on that first round. Second round, not so much. But I think that St. Ambrose can really pull something out here. I'm looking forward to what their answer is going to be. And I'm looking forward to seeing a lot more of these phenomenal plays from both Reinhardts, because we saw them back and forth consistently in round 1. We just didn't see that at all in round 2, and I think that was kind of the difference. That's what really made it a 100-0 play instead of what was 100 to 64 or 76. It was a much wider differential. I think it's because that Reinhardt differential, that tank line difference.
I just don't think for St. Ambrose or SAU here, it doesn't seem like that they played the dive as well as they'd probably have. I'm sure they've scrimmed it, but, and I could be totally wrong. I partially feel like on Lijiang Gardens, they just engaged from the wrong side. If they played a Rhine comp, they would have played that completely right. But if they had just gone over the bridge, forced a dive into that massively open area, they could have made that dive work a lot better. But I kind of feel like they stifled their own selves just with pathing and just kind of maybe not being coached in the correct direction on that point with a dive comp. But either way, we're going to be moving right along into Blizzard World. I love this map. Everybody loves this map. You like Disney World, you like games, gotta love this map. You know what I mean?
Do you think the difference in these maps, the fact that this one's a lot more wide, you have a lot more variation in terms of directional, I guess, spreading out and positioning, do you think that's going to be a big difference maker between these two sides?
I mean, it could. I mean, I know your favorite character, Widow, could see some play. Probably not. I already see we're favoring an Ashe on the side of St. Ambrose, which I understand. Ashe is a really good sniper, very consistent. You put the Mercy on him. It's kind of like a pseudo Widow look that has a little bit more utility with TNT and Bob. So I like that look. Sinfax on the Echo, another character that I'm a big fan of. So these could be the answers that you were talking about that St. Ambrose needs to come up with to find some luck. But Arc going to be finding his way back onto the Winston. So let's see if they can play that dive on defense. It's a bit of a harder comp, but I actually saw it in my first game today. Played decently well on defense, so I'm interested.
Yeah, I know you called me out earlier in terms of wanting to cast with me earlier on, talking about Widowmaker maps and things
on
like
Havana.
that.
Yes.
Yeah, and I've seen Widowmaker already, and I'm looking forward to seeing more. And I'll give as much insight into Widowmaker strategies when it comes to these maps as much as I can. And while Widowmaker can be played in this map, I do actually agree that Ashe is a better hero in terms of their utility usage. Let's see where it pans out for, but we already see them taking an aggressive stance forward as USM will start swinging. It'll be Alyssa, however, she finds the first kill to remove Juicebox, a big backline player that's going to be taken out. So is Arc now, losing a backline for a front line. A good trade coming from Bruce on that Rhine once again. And it looks like USM have a pretty high contestation on the actual point, securing it with an immortality field, which will be denied. But it looks like it's not going to go without a fight. SAU already coming through and trying to get some kills as well. Arc and Azuros will find some as well, but Azuros will be backed by Bruce again. And it looks like Bruce is kind of that single man trying to define a shatter, already connecting to 2. And you're going to find the last player, Agent, not able to pull out the gat and find any kills. And that was extremely close. St. Ambrose had a good chance there.
Yeah, St. Ambrose played that pretty well. They played it slow. What happened was they were getting separated by that high ground with the boat on it. The tanks were on the right staircase. The supports and the DPS were kind of on the left staircase. And it was very hard for the supports of SAU to wrap around and get to their tanks. They were able to get the res, though, which was massive from Agent, but they weren't able to find any more picks after that. So they didn't get what they were looking for.
Already the fight engaging in the high ground. Max and Arc finding the first two, and that's going to be that dynamite that comes through from that Ash we've already talked about that really lowered the health of the opposing players. Arc finds their second under Juice Box, while Alyssa, she'll secure onto Jacob. The Epic Gamer himself not going to be allowed to be Epic very much longer in that life. He'll be relegated to a respawn, and already USM, who managed to get a little bit through the first arc, is going to be stopped dead in their tracks, forced to try again.
And this is a better dive objective. There's a lot of high grounds that goes the whole distance. So you're going to have a lot to work with in terms of dive, where that first point's a little bit more rugged and hard to figure out. Sometimes I'm a Winston player and I don't exactly know what I'm supposed to do, but he's going to go right to the back line like he's supposed to.
Yeah, diving in boosted as well. Immortality field is down, which will make it much more difficult. And also trying to jump away, not able to do it. Bruce able to stop enough, forcing the actual rage to come out, but it's not going to matter. Jacob high noons the solo ult to secure an ult for ult trade. And honestly, I think a better one. A Graviton comes out, securing quite a lot of damage on the opposing side from the player of Alyssa, but it's going to go the other way. Arc, who's back into the fight off of revive from Agent, finds Juice Box, but it's still back and forth action. 4 players still standing for the USM side, and if you're St. Ambrose, you have a little bit longer to run through in terms of this revive. It's going to be a split fight, but you do see USM opting to take a step back and maybe trying to find a more advantageous position on the high ground.
Ooh, Sloppy's position. He gets a little sloppy right there, had to say it. Was out of the line of sight of Bob and then walks right back in, but now Bruce up on the high ground, just taking it to him, finds 2, lays down the shadow, but isn't able to pick any up. Trying to pick up the rest of them. They're going to finally find Rose there, and Riot will find Max to clean up the rest of that fight. Now they've just kind of walked all the way through, but the cart is still moving backwards. Well, as I say it, Zarya on the objective and getting it moving.
Name something more... Name a better combination, I guess you say, than Bruce Goose in holding left click and W. Because that's all we saw right there.
Yeah, he's doing a very good job of it. And why not? If they're not shooting you and not applying the pressure that they need to, why would you stop doing that? But as I say it too, St. Ambrose is making great use of these high grounds, making it really hard for Bruce to do anything without going up there himself. So now he's just gonna have to walk right under them into these dives.
Synfax will duplicate over to the Rhine, will miss a charge opportunity, but a Max won't miss the shot onto Elvin Dunn, forcing the kill into the opposing Tracer. And this high ground we've been talking about the whole time has been very fruitful for their side. It looks like Arc's in a bit of a tough spot, will fall to Sloppy, and they continue their presence going forward. Graviton connects from Alyssa, finding almost all of them, but not looking hot as well. Alyssa now below 50% HP, and they're trying to connect as well, but Bruce Goose, who does fall, is now that frontline tank with Shatter, who's no longer available. Jacob finds a melee kill onto Synfax, the player flying, which is an interesting combination. Boost comes onto Alyssa to help support the fight, and a gate will also come out as well from the player of Riot. Hopefully Bruce can get in time to maybe connect with a Shadow, but Elvin instead, in a denial of the resurrection from Jacob onto Agent, securing a nice kill, and that keeps themselves moving forward. St. Ambrose don't have an answer to this. That play saved entirely by the McCree.
Yeah, absolutely. Jacob pops off a little bit there and then closes it out with the high noon. Decent amount of ults used though. So if you're Mississippi, you're happy you caught it, but also on SAU, you got out 4 ultimates in that fight, and that's, you know, that's a lot of ultimates. So now this next fight, St. Ambrose should be able to come back in with the bomb. Possibly, well, they actually don't have that much of their own. They're swapping over to the Brawl, so they're going to lose that Primal Rage, and they're going to lose the Nano Boost and go for the window of Baptiste Cheese.
Difficult situation. You do have a beat in Juicebox's hands, but Jacob is going to find Synfax, giving them a 1-player advantage. Shatter connecting to 3 on the opposing side of Arc. Shield Arc will get a charge going forward. It doesn't kill, saved, and Elvin will secure that kill to finish that one off. But USM in the feed, as it's going to be an entirely red kill feed. No consolation kills really coming from the side of St. Ambrose, and it's exactly what they needed. Not much time left for them to actually defend this in terms of how close it's getting. They do have 2 minutes. If they can finish it off, they will be about 5 or 6 more pushes, but I don't think University of Southern Mississippi wants to allow them to have that chance to go for those pushes. Charge coming through. Blue Goose finding Synfax. A bomb will be forced out from Max, and it'll be placed in a bad position. A Shatter from Bruce picks up and finds 2, and the Evan Dude finishes off Azura of replay. Shatter, however, from Arc will connect, and the Graviton, and it's gonna go Arc in the kill feed, saving single-handedly with the support from his teammate of Alyssa. That duo combination saving this one for them, and we're gonna have to see if University of Southern Mississippi can do it once again.
Alyssa's been doing really good on this Zarya farming up grab and using it and finding a lot of people. Not always the exact success or follow-up you'd hope for, but even on Lijiang Gardens, right at the end, she was able to eat the Graviton Surge of Sloppy. So Alyssa's been looking pretty good throughout this whole game, even though it hasn't been going their way.
A sleep connecting onto Arc, and we will see the window come as well. Synfax finding the first pick onto Sloppy. And the push is coming through. Bruce already with an aggressive stance, swinging, holding left click, boosted as Elvin finds out Arc, the opposing Reinhardt. But Jacob will fall. You've lost too much damage if you're the side of USM. But Elvin, dude, single-handedly keeping you inside of this one, finding 3 in that fight. And Bruce Goose finds the remaining 2. And now your last 2 players standing the ball that's now coming through, which is Arc. And it'll be shattered, but misses just barely. And it's going to be hard to keep them off of it. But a Shire coming through. It's going to connect, but it'll be stopped by Sloppy's barriers on the Zarya. And it's going to be a swing continuing from Bruce. Has not stopped holding left click this entire time. They just need to force them off. High Noon coming from Jacob, finding 3 to finish it off. And Bruce, who does fall, it does not matter. USM take it all the way.
Agent with a huge peep right there, but Jacob just with the bigger Noon just holds down on that High Noon and finds absolutely everybody. Cannot ask for more to close it out, but St. Ambrose gets him down to 30 seconds. That is by no means a roll. You just cannot call that a roll. That is a pretty good defense, and they got a good defense in on that last objective. So now all St. Ambrose has to do is get it to the 3rd point. They don't even have to get time to get a 2nd attempt at attacking this map.
Let's talk a little bit about like digesting about how that last few pushes kind of guess. Obviously, USM had the momentum, carried it all the way through that last phase, lost it off of a phenomenal save coming through. SAU were able to hold on a little bit longer because of that duo play from Arc and Alyssa. They were able to hold on for just a little bit. Unfortunately, USM not going out without a fight. They lost the players. They lost their damage. They lost Jacob initially, who did manage to come back and ended with that High Noon, as well as we saw the player, I believe it was Sloppy, who was taken out as well, which I was commenting about because it was, in fact, Synfax on Junkrat who found the kill, which I found it ironic that you lose a Zarya to a Junkrat, which is like the best matchup. You want to be a Zarya if there's a Junkrat. You just eat those. But
you usually get it at 100 charge damage, but
very quickly.
Junkrat through a window makes Zarya look rather silly because that double damage basically makes her a 200 HP target, which a lot of 200 HP targets do not do that well in the Junkrat. But I've liked Synfax on this rat too. I've seen a lot of success out of it. He almost found a huge tire. You know, they almost had a great play. Arc was contesting on that Wrecking Ball, and they had the tire come out. If it finds a few, they might win that fight, but not quite.
And obviously not wanting to bring that on the attack, instead opting for the Echo, which we have seen previously, and we haven't seen much from the Echo at all in terms of both sides. It's like any Echoes that have been played so far haven't found much success, just like now with Jacob finding the kill onto Synfax. Maybe a switch is needed because right now Jacob and Elvin are kind of destroying your opposition. Play a little bit safer DPS, more guaranteed DPS, because once again, Jacob is on a hot streak, not missing any shots and not allowing SAU any chance of stepping through this arch.
You know, one thing I'd like to point out, because I saw this in the notes prior, was that Bruce Goose is clearly their main tank. Wrecking Ball is generally considered a main tank, but Sloppy is the one that is the Wrecking Ball player, so it forces Bruce onto this Zarya. If they can get a lot of success with this comp, it's fine. The problem is if they want to switch back to Brawl, they're going to have Bruce switch off Zarya, then Sloppy to Zarya, and it's this weird trading of characters. So this is a little bit of daylight that St. Ambrose might be able to key in on if they can dislodge Mississippi here.
Yeah, one thing that you have to take into account as well from the notes that we have had going forward, Max is a player that plays a lot of FPS games and is apparently pretty phenomenal aim to back it up, and we haven't been able to see that much. Really getting outdone by Jacob and Elvin, but I think Max could have a pretty high presence once those, pulse bombs get off and can really guarantee some backline presence. But continuing the frontline presence, we do see a pulse bomb from the side of USM go off. Elvin will fail to connect any kills off of it, but it won't matter. Bruce onto Alyssa. Zoros will find Jacob. That's a good kill to secure yourself inward, but Elvin and Bruce do not care at all, and Riot does not let it matter. Jacob resurrected and brought back into this one. Arc in the middle of Rage falls as well, and USM all red in the feet again. Gonna need to find some answers if you're St. Ambrose.
This is just that thing that we talked about on Control, though. Once Mississippi has point presence. It is has so far been impossible for SAU to dislodge them, and as of right now, there is no chance at dislodging them. And now they're going to be coming up on 5 ultimates, 5 of their more strong ultimates. Elvin Dunn is just, you know, farming these pulse bombs. He's going to have that very shortly as well, and not a lot of ults on the side of SAU, and it's going to be very hard to make this push.
Minefield does go off. It's going to be on top. It'll also find Agent, but Jacob will find Arc, denying the Winston any chance. A slam will force Alyssa up, and they'll also fall down, quite literally, to be on the grave. Bruscu's finding their second as well to Synfax, fully charged and rearing to go, will secure what they need to, while Sloppy and Jacob will finish off Azur and Max. Once again, another fight St. Ambrose is struggling to win out. If they make changes now in terms of their heroes, they're not going to get those ults charged up, which could be the deal breakers here. But USM have all of their ults except for Minefield available, putting them in a much better position.
Yeah, the overall ult economy has been outstanding from USM so far. This fight is should just be grab pulse bomb and call it a day. Bomb's gonna come out very early to slam into the backline to try to give a little bit extra space for Bomb, but he kind of gets put away. They don't really utilize the bomb space. That's one ultimate down for SAU right now. Grab coming out, pulse bomb flies in there, finds 3, and is gonna absolutely ice this fight out once again.
I want to let you guys know exactly what happened there, because that was one of the best plays I've had the pleasure of witnessing. Elvin hanging out on the high ground up towards those boxes, really just being a threat. They don't know what to do about him. They turn to face to maybe see if they can fight that out. Obviously, they were incapable of doing so, and ultimately, in the end, they turn to fight it out, and that's when the grab connects, and that's when it devastates. Bruce with phenomenal timing to finish that one off, and Elvin's not going out without a fight again. Continuing onward, a boost will go on top of Arc, and they'll fall quite swiftly anyways. A Transcendence will drop, and it's just now the play of Zeros who'll tap it for a second after sleeping Bruce, but it's not going to matter. Juicebox himself will also just jump into the water, just taking the fat L and taking a drink as well. And USM are going to take 2 maps back-to-back, guaranteeing them the victory in the end, but we do still get to go to Havana and play that 3rd map.
That was a rather swift win right there for USM. That was fantastic ultimate usage all around. Here we're going to see a great ult used by Jacob. He was pretty lights out even with the ult, or with the times where he didn't have the lock-on ability. He had great aim that whole round, kind of just putting away St. Ambrose and not really letting their DPS players find any room on the map.
Absolutely devastating. And just the plays that we saw, the standout plays. We saw solid play all around from St. Ambrose, but I think that's the difference. I think that's what we're seeing differently here. USM has standout plays. They're not just playing at a very competent single individual level. As a coherent team, they're putting each and every play as something that's going to wow and devastate your opposition. There's nothing you can do against a team that has that statistically, where 90% of each of their actions all lead up to this wowing strategy, I guess. Whoever is the team, the coach of that team calling these shots and calling what's happening, phenomenal job so far. I'm still in awe about that Elvin Dude distraction leading up to that phenomenal grab that connected, which just put the final nail in the coffin there. USM not giving any chance. They only needed to use 2 ults to do it as well, despite having 5 in pocket. They only needed to use 2 to just absolutely wreck them. Nothing that the side of St. Ambrose could do. I never would have anticipated that, and if I was in a ranked match or competitive match and I saw that be done against me, I would just quit. I'm sorry, like, that is phenomenal.
Yeah, that was very well executed too. You know, when you have ultimates like that, you want to see them get combined, especially when you're leading into that last minute. You have to just hit those. And I mean, I think that's why Southern Mississippi has been doing so well in this league so far. If you're just going to combo ults, you're going to use them how you're supposed to, you're going to find yourself wins. Overwatch is an ultimate game. There is a lot in the neutral fights when it comes to just aiming. Jacob showed us that plenty on the Ash. But if you can get ultimates and use them in a great economy like USM did, you're just going to dominate. I don't think you're going to dominate every team that hard, but that was very, very decisive. And they just won every neutral fight. Jacob was just shooting everybody, and then they could just save up all those ults for the last 2 minutes and just slowly use them to win fights.
I mean, it's really just comes down to that one. And, well, we're coming in now into Havana. We're going to have an interesting play here. This is the one we've talked about previously in terms of having Widowmakers rear their beautiful heads, and we'll see how many heads they can actually take off of people's shoulders. I think we could see some good heads come through. I think we could see some headshots if they come through. We definitely saw quite a few come earlier in the matches already. Girthquake, who had done just a phenomenal job of carrying in terms of the DPS on their side. And I'm looking to see, I think there's one player from both sides. It's going to be Jacob, who's already popped off on the Ash, and it's going to be Max, who, as we have been told in the notes, is a standout player in terms of aim. Phenomenal, FPS player in his own right. I think we could have some good matchups here if they do actually go for a sniper v sniper battle.
Yeah, no, I'd love to see it. Widow, I mean, she has one of the most broken sight lines on the 3rd point. If we end up making it there, look at that. Jacob going to be finding their way onto the Widow. As of right now, they are on attack, so they could switch at any point. But I'd like to see it. Widow just, this whole map just has so many little spots you can go to, so many angles. And if you're hitting shots, Widow is always one of the best characters in the game because nobody else has her one-shot potential and the absolute damage potential that she has. If she gets the Mercy damage boost, she could do so much damage to even tanks. No, you don't think about it when you're a tank, but when you get a damage boost headshot to you from a Widow, you go down to like 200, 100 HP. You're just like, oh my god, I was not prepared for that. But the close hold to shut the door, St. Ambrose is looking to do it. I love this strategy on this map.
Oh, unfortunately, they're actually going around. Most of them going to the other side. They will find Bruce out. Now you've got players that are on the outside edge. You do see Jacob, who's back onto the Widowmaker, looking for an opportunity to go for it. And it looks like they're actually going to revive Bruce as well. Interesting decision. And they're actually going to switch. Riot is going to go to the Ana now, and we're going to see a Lucio run out. They're switching it out. They're not going to play the long game. They'll fight into Ambrose's as well. They're confident enough to do it. Stepping up, falling his Elven Dude and Bruce as well. Just laid straight into the hellfire that is those Junkrat abilities. Nothing they can do against it. And it's going to have to be another relegated respawn. Maybe step out a different door because that one did not work out for you.
Well, that is just St. Ambrose making USM play their game. Right now, they wanted to play the Balzaria, but they are not allowed because you just can't get out of that spawn if you run those tanks. Look at that. Max finds Bruce, and Bruce is looking way less powerful than he did on the other maps. Oh my, this domination from Ambrose this is great. This is exactly what you're looking for on this close hold. A minute off and the cart has not been touched.
Unfortunately, you do have problems when it comes to playing this, and you'll snowball. You've already lost Arc, now forced to make the entire trek, literally the entire trek backwards, and each player you lose is another one you have to go for. So you're already snowballing out Synfax, of course, Max and Agent all falling to the opposition of that frontline Bruce, who's connecting onto 3 in the process, and Alyssa, she'll opt to die to herself. And it's going to be another reset, respawn, and regroup, and hopefully that'll be enough. So it did buy time. Successful for St. Ambrose, and it did build those ult charges. Look at their side and fear them because you've got a lot you're going to have to face going forward.
Yeah, I mean, they got a minute and a half off before that cart move, and they all opted to die on cart, and that is exactly how you play that. So now they just come out and start popping ults. Window, though, from Riot, placed up a little bit close. Synfax pulling out the Riptide, trying to find anything, gets 2, and now St. Ambrose is doing exactly what they wanted. They're going to get this cart back right on the initial corner you usually hold with Reinhardt. As I say it, Jacob, though, man, I wasn't even paying attention. Up on the top left, finds 2 and is trying to swing this one back.
Looks like there's a cheeky play going through, and Jacob continuously trying to find some. Arc will be nano boosted out from Azure Rose. Finds Sloppy in the process, and a Shatter does connect on a Juice Box, but will be shielded to save Bruce in the process. You do lose Juice Box out, and it's going to be that Junkrat tire that comes from Elvin, denied by Azure Rose. So it does look like St. Ambrose have found the answer, and it's entirely on Havana. Nothing they could do about it. We might see this go 2-1 scoreline.
Yeah, I mean, that's absolutely fantastic from Synfax there. It's kind of what I wanted to see him on all game since the first seconds of map 1. He's been looking great on this Junkrat, making so much damage and havoc. And one thing I'm wondering is, now that they're out of spawn, will Bruce or any of them opt to go back to this ball comp? Huge grab coming out, gets the E-Mort out, gets the beat out. They're not going to be able to kill anything, and Max is actually going to go down now. Sloppy's going to put the grab back onto St. Ambrose, and now they're chomping away. Bruce is trying to find Arc.
Shadow from Bruce will manage to connect to the Sinvax, and we finished off with a Fire Strike. Arc once again nano boosted out. Bruce forced to face him in a one-on-one, but Bruce, not to be outdone, will have a Riptire to back him up. It won't kill Arc, but Arc will eventually fall to Riot nonetheless. Bruce finding two into Azuro's and Agent, single-handedly taking the support, but Max finds two, finding Elvin and Riot, and Alyssa will find her own onto Sloppy, but Juice will not be outdone, finding onto two as well. And now the last player standing at Sinfax will also fall. Agent just relegated to buy time, but it's not gonna matter. It took the entire time pool, but USM will in fact make it to this first point.
Man, we all wanted to see St. Ambrose get that full hold, give USM a little taste of their own medicine right there. Not quite gonna be able to do it, Max, with the huge Blossom, but Jacob holding strong on that top right high ground, just laying shots in, constantly poking away at St. Ambrose, and finally, after a long time, is gonna give them the point win there.
Difficult situation. You do have Jacob able to tag some body shots and maybe some headshots to find a secure kill, but Elvin, who you're relying on to go to the backline, dove in by 4 players and gets tagged out by Agent, but that removes those players from your front line, and Bruce will punish. Arc falls, as well as Jacob finding Agent in stride, and now the push continuing going forward. You do have the window that gets dropped out from Riot, the push continuing as Sloppy finds Sinfax, and the last few remaining players of the St. Ambrose side, they're getting staggered on their spawn, snowballed out, and now it's just those 2 front lines with Lucio as the only players kind of forced to wait it out now, and where they could have fought it a little bit sooner are now going to be forced to in one last-ditch effort, and they do have the ultimates to back it up, but Jacob has the information, and you also have a shatter from Bruce that finds everyone in the back line, comes up top, also comes down from below. Arc has his shatter looking for an opportunity, but not gonna get it as Bruce charges him away, and now the fight looks like it's going in USM, and they're gonna make it all the way up to this second point, and now forced to go into this third point, and this is the long one all the way. This is where snipers thrive.
Yeah, this is where Jacob is going to get to do exactly what he wants. Not that he hasn't been doing what he wants on any of the other points, because even on point 1 where they were getting held up, he was still finding picks for their team. Sloppy going to find Sinfax early. That's a tough reset right there. But now they're just fighting for this space while they move the cart. They don't want to be pushed way back. Huge shatter from Arc right there. Trying to find all the picks. Max is going to be the one there to clean him up. And now St. Ambrose has stopped USM.
You just gotta lose that frontline rhyme when you clear that out. It's a really big pivotal point for them. And a bit of a misplay, I think, from Sinfax to pop the Riptire out. Immediately shot out by Jacob on the Widowmaker, and now it's the grab, followed by a window as well. Agent caught out as well with Arc, and it's going all right in the feed as Sloppy, Bruce, and of course Jacob find him to clean him up. Nothing the side of St. Ambrose can do, and that last player standing of Max, who's just waiting it out in spawn, not too sure what to do. You have 3 ultimates, you have that Graviton, but time is not on your side. A minute and a half to push it the last few meters, and Bruce will put a shatter. It doesn't really connect enough, and they're going to be anti-ed as well. It looks like they're not going to matter, but Riot, so Juice will drop the beat to keep themselves alive. But the objective still contested by Arc on the Hammond, and Sinfax able to find a kill with Alyssa.
St. Ambrose gonna use some ultimates and win another fight. They're slowly picking away here at the Mississippi team and doing a good job of it. They do have to use 3 there and switch off of the Reinhardt over to the ball, and all they're gonna have is High Noon, and with no shield to put that behind, it's gonna be really hard for him to get it off. Ooh, Agent gets picked out, but Sinfax gonna trade him out and get Jacob off the map.
Difficult situation when you lose a Widowmaker to a Junkrat in a position where you don't really want that. As somebody that plays Widowmaker, that's kind of emotionally traumatizing, I guess, but a Fire Strike will shut down Sinfax's ability and finish him off eventually, but Max on a High Noon will be traded out by Sloppy, who he just killed. A right-click connecting from far, and it looks like back and forth being traded evenly from both sides, but of course St. Ambrose have the ability to stay in this. They have the closer spawn, but Bruce not letting it matter. Finds 2, refragged by Sinfax, but Jacob takes Arc out. Objective payload still being pushed forward, escorted the last few meters. And it's gonna be Max still playing and still alive, just trying to click heads enough, waiting for the team to get back when we force off. And it's gonna be Elvin still in the feed, finding absolutely everything. The last few dregs of the opposition to fight this one back. But it's not looking hot. They're staggered, they're snowballed, and it's still coming up right in the feed.
Big shatter coming out, trying to find anything, just kind of clears out some of the mines, but they are going to take it all the way to 3. As I say, Max trying to get a little contest on, but not going to be nearly enough.
Absolutely phenomenal round from both sides. I think that St. Ambrose showed me something that's exceedingly shocking. The ability to hold someone in their spawn. A team that has, I don't want to say one-sidedly trounced you, because it has been a little back and forth in terms of, you know, round 1 of map 1, and of course some of the initial phases of your defense on map 2 on Blizzard Worlds. But it's a team that has beaten you 2-0 in a pretty fair right. You were able to completely deny them any chance for a pretty long period of time. The only reason you lost that initial push, which it ultimately leads to you losing, is the same reason, snowballing. You lose a player, forced to respawn. Time and keeps going against and against you. You play time against them at the beginning to buy time, but you also lost a time. Father Time ticks in both directions. It's the 7th man on the field for both teams, and ultimately, while St. Ambrose took advantage of it, Southern Mississippi will use it to their end.
I know, it's very disheartening for St. Ambrose, who had such a good first point hold. They were 10 seconds away from full holding on first, and then it just, as you said it already, snowballing all the way to that 3rd point. No time on the clock, but for payload, that's a little, it matters a little bit less, because even if you get it with 5 minutes, you're still, everyone gets a chance if you get it to the end with 0 time. So no matter what, Mississippi has guaranteed they will get another attack if St. Ambrose can make it to the other end. But double shield now coming out from Arcanolus, and I like this look on this map. It's a really good double shield / double sniper objective, but Rose is going to have to look out for Dud on the Tracer.
You know what, St. Ambrose, you showed me something dirty, and now you're showing me something I hate. I hate double shield as a Widow main. You know, it's the most annoying thing to face is shields, and those are the 2 most annoying shields you can face. So, you know, as a Widow main, I hate it, but as a commentator, it's a great strategy. Wonderful to work. It doesn't work out for you because, like you said, you let that ball of Sloppy and, of course, Elvin on the Tracer take your sides, take you out, and ultimately you'll kind of snowball it out again. You'll lose one, falling apart. Not what you want, and one player peeks out from behind a shield, or it gets moved a little bit too quickly. Jacob is not missing that opportunity to click that head. They are not missing the chance, and they will punish you accordingly.
Yeah, Jacob's been absolutely on it all night, and Wrecking Ball does really well in the double shield, especially since Sigma's not as good as he used to be, but another massive slam, just farming that ultimate up. Takes a little bit of damage, gets the Discord, but he's always going to squeak away as a hamster kind of does.
Yeah, unfortunately as well. Sloppy does get denied by his throws. Good, actually good play to stun that out and kind of force him to be trapped behind that tree. And really unfortunate for Sloppy, but I do think that USM still have a good chance to continue going forward. But not if you're going to lose Elvin like that. Sinfax will find one as Arc secures onto Jacob. This point looking lost for USM, as St. Ambrose will take this one quite swiftly in a much quicker time than we saw USM were capable of. And Sloppy looking to buy time, but it will not matter. Once again snowballed. If you're USM, just take the L on this point, maybe buy a couple bit of time if you're a Tracer, but really and truly stay back, maybe just charge some ultimates, but you're not going to win this out here, I don't think.
It's a little bit hard to win out. They do have the fast characters, so they're able to get back, but I think they could have maybe waited until last second, maybe got a 3-man, 4-man push and made something kind of happen at this last doorstop, or just opt for the close hold on this next one. Either way, tons of ultimates for USM right here. They're going to be able to walk in with them and hopefully get the high ground engagement with this dive and shut down St. Ambrose. But St. Ambrose has a bunch of ults of their own, so it's going to be a lot of Q presses in to decide this fight.
Absolutely. Sloppy will dive to the back line, finding Sinfax out, now holding up into the high ground from above the opposition, looking for a chance to drop in and, you know, pound down, as Hammonds do in fact do. But a Valkyrie will now be popped by Riot, giving them information as well as a minefield, and they're all pulled into the minefield. Oh, right at the feed! It'll go all the way as Sloppy and Bruce find every kill to guarantee it. And while the respawns are on the side of St. Ambrose, it is a very phenomenal hold, only requiring 2 or 3 ults. But take a look in that top left corner here, Neely.
Yep.
It is not looking hot. St. Ambrose have every ult but the window that Agent used, which I think was a waste on that last second push in terms of that first objective hold.
Yeah, maybe a bit of a waste there. Not a lot of ultimates, but one thing that's great about these dive characters is they're less ultimate based. You can win a neutral fight even into all these ults. They're just gonna have to run away from this supercharger, and they're not gonna get any kills out of it, as I say. And Max finds Elvin done, but Sloppy finds Max, so there's kind of a trade out, and no ultimates have been used on the side of USM.
Difficult situation, of course. If you are Southern Mississippi, you really only have a Transcendence. And if I have that Transcendence in pocket, I want to save that for probably a Graphitic Flux, right? I want to save that for something kind of guaranteed. You do see the Transcendence from Azuros will be popped. It kind of saves out some of their team on the high ground. And don't think it was the most fruitful, but it doesn't seem to matter. Agent finds one on Alyssa. She'll find onto Elvin. And now, if you are St. Ambrose, you've got a massive player advantage, but you need to push and continue to push that payload. The ever-flowing objective cannot be forgotten, even in the midst of the battle. I think they haven't done the best job of that, but they are continuing to push it ever slowly forward.
Yeah, they're able to take these spaces, but they really just needed to use ultimates to take 2 spaces. Supercharger just to get to high ground. Transcendence just to hold the high ground. And now you're not going to have those ultimates to really counter a push other than just taking certain space. Slam from Sloppy coming onto the point with the mines. Going to corner everybody up. Transcendence to counter the flux. And Bruce is going to find Arc. And now it looks like USM is going to, once again, win another fight.
I mean, I called it. I'm just going to say it. I called it here, Neely. You heard me. You're going to use that Transcendence to counter the Flux. And that's exactly what we saw. And you know what? It carried him. Bruce able to stay alive with that massive amount of charge they had at that time. Was able to connect and find kills. Constant damage to worry about. And of course, that frontline utility being able to stay alive and eat that damage is something to behold. Ultimately, really giving them the force and the oomph they need to carry forward and win the fight. And now you still got 3 ults, nearly 4 ults available now for the St. Ambrose side. You only have 2, and none are really that close if you're on Southern Mississippi, but you've got to grab the biggest one yet. Combo with a Dragon Strike, eating into the insides. Jacob finding 3 already, and the last 3 to escape, not looking so hot. Bruce finding on Agent Arc. It's a nice consolation prize to Juicebox, but it doesn't matter because Jacob will clean up house, finding all of them but 1 in the end.
Yeah, and Rose just not able to charge up that Transcendence fast enough because, you know, Juicebox used his to counter an ult. If you look at those 2 ultimates that match up, the Transcendence and the Flux, they're very close right now. And when Transcendence gets used out of sync with the enemy ultimates, you'll never find your way back into sync because now Rose is going to have to use this ult for tempo or wait for the next grab, and there's only 30 seconds, so you're not going to be able to do something like that. You just kind of got to push with an ultimate like Transcendence at this point.
A counter Dragon Strike now used by Synfax, who we fall to Jacob's Storm Arrow, connecting, and Sloppy from behind, holding into the high ground, falls in, hooks out, and kills Agent. Now we see St. Ambrose getting snowballed like we've talked about previously. It's what befell them before, and it looks like it'll do it again. Juicebox finding Alyssa as Bruce, and Elvin secures some more. Elvin onto a double to finish off Arc. And now that player standing Synfax in the back of Minefield to make it even more difficult. And there's no time left at all. It looked dicey for the USM side, but ultimately they take it, hold it, and win it out 3-0.
Yeah, it's a big 3-0 there for USM. They haven't had as many of those as you would have liked to see this season, but they come out and they show why they have all the wins that they do, making themselves a 6-1 team here in NECC, a huge dragon, grab dragon, and you're not going to have the Transcendence to counter, but I think it was just overall better ult usage here tonight by USM over SAU, and it just kind of gave them the win.
Absolutely, and honestly, I'm a little disappointed. I'm going to be honest with you. Jacob missing like 3 arrows there, you know. Maybe not exactly what you want to see. Like, oh, Fat Dragon, we got this. Nailed it. Great play, which it was. And then, you know, not hitting those shots. You know, I've done that as Widowmaker. You hit like 3 amazing headshots and you miss 20 in a row in the same kill feed, and somehow it catches all 20. You know?
Absolutely.
It's kind of embarrassing, but nonetheless, good. What's your favorite ultimate in all of that? Like, in terms of play, right? Like, was it game 1's play of the game, game 2's play of the game, which was the flank high noon, or was it that Dragon Strike right there, which really put the nail in the coffin?
Mean, the Grav Dragon's a bit of a sleeper, you know. It's not, you know, you put the 2 ults down, you do it, you kill the E more, you know, you win the fight. You do the good Overwatch thing. I like Bruce Goose's shatter on, what was that, Lijiang Tower. I mean, it was just a great shatter. He finds 5, they clean it up. I did like the flank noon because that was a massive swing potential, but I got to go with Bruce Goose's big shatter play because I'm a Ryan player. If you saw a Widow play, you'd pick the Widow play. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, I can definitely call that. I think the shadow was very fruitful. I think there was a lot to go in and connect with that. Really put a lot of success for their side in terms of that. And I think one thing that we can definitely say in terms of these two sides, the St. Ambrose had some very nice strategies. I think that they were exceedingly comfortable on Havana. They maybe were a little less comfortable. They were comfortable in the first round of, the first map, but they weren't comfortable in the second and probably weren't going to be comfortable in the third in terms of differences between them. Map 2, Blizzard World, they just had no attack. They had no way to pressure. They didn't know when to push in, how to push in. I would work on, if I am St. Ambrose, I'd work on different styles of attack, stylations of attack, maybe switching it up and having different attacks, as well as on your defense, don't snowball, because that was all of map 3. Name of the game for map 3 is snowballing.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes once you do like lose a fight or you start doing very well, you do need to get those ults and kind of put a stop to a team. And they weren't really able to do that after the first point. I thought they did a pretty good job on the first point. They almost got the full hold on the side of SAU, which would have ultimately won the map because if they get the full hold there, they also push further than the first point. So if they're able to get that, they can maybe pull out a map win, which map wins are always very important, especially if you're on the side of SAU, who are now a 1-6 team in this tournament and probably going to be hard for them to find their way into the playoffs. But they didn't, I don't know. My thing is, other than Blizzard World, I didn't think they looked terrible. I thought they had a lot of things they could show for it, and maybe just double down on that brawl comp. Maybe put a Mei into it and just rush into the enemy team and just practice that. I love that comp. You can always find a little bit of success in a lot of these teams, especially because everyone's working together, but that's just my take on it.
I mean, I can't disagree. Obviously, St. Ambrose reminding me a lot of Lincoln Land, who they did lose to in week 1. It was a 2-1 loss, so they did get a map on for themselves. But, Lincoln Land versus CSUDH, it was close. It obviously went pretty one-sidedly in favor of CSUDH, but I saw good things. I saw a lot of things I liked, but they didn't have their stand-outish, those miraculous big plays that I've already talked about previously. It's really like you can have competent play on both sides of the field, but when one side has the standout players, those big-time flashy finishes, it's that side that catches your eye, and it's that side that's going to start snowballing and just riling up the competition, putting the other team's mentality down, and of course, bringing that time down ever slower, and that 7th man on your team, Father Time, can go for the other team or yours as well. It's kind of like when you're playing a sport, an IRL sport, I guess, because there's a difference now in IRL sport, and you have a referee that's kind of calling one too many calls for the other team, right? They got an extra man in the field. It works the same way with Father Time. It's ever ticking and ever flowing against you. It's just something to keep an eye on.
Absolutely, but I mean, if I had to pick an MVP for this map, I'd probably have to go with Sloppy. I thought he was just a much better main tank. If I had to give another nod to somebody else, it would be Jacob. Those two are kind of the best players on this USM team, always coming up big. Sometimes a main tank will look better because his team is so good around him, but I felt like Sloppy was making a lot of opportunities for his team when he was on that Reinhardt pick. He just looked very, very strong and always a little bit better than Ark here tonight.
Absolutely. I think I have to agree with you 100%. I don't think there wasn't the huge standout players in terms of the side of, St. Ambrose. I think all their players were competent. I think they all worked really well together, but it was those standout players on USM that really decided it, and I'm going to have to give it to Sloppy as well. I think despite their name being Sloppy, everything but. I think they did a phenomenal job. Jacob is definitely one to throw your hat into the ring, maybe think on it, maybe think about it going forward, and they did a phenomenal job on the Ashe, which really carried single-handedly. Did a phenomenal job on Tracer, the McCree as well. Every single hero they touched worked for them. They had a lot of variety, and Sloppy didn't need that much variety. When we saw the Wrecking Ball come out, there was no contention. The Wrecking Ball was going to win. It was going to dominate. We saw maybe 2 mistakes, and those 2 mistakes did lead to a death, which we had casters cursed at the time when it happened, but it didn't matter. They ultimately went it out, so it's not a big deal. But my name has been Infernosis, joined here by Neely. We have another game coming up in about 15 minutes, maybe a little longer, give or take how long the teams take to get in. I am not casting that game. Neely, do you know who's casting that game?
I think it's Septilence. I actually have not checked. That'll be my 3rd game of the day, so I've had a whole slew of casters on my hands, but that's who I believe it's going to be.
I think it is as well.
Either way, should be a good little game. I haven't checked who it's going to be against. Let me get the.
It's going to be UBCO, the University of British Columbia Okanagan. and of course UCD, which is a phenomenal team as well. They're tied out 3-3 against a team that has won every game they've played except for a forfeit and a draw against Northern Essex, which that was a great game last week, let me tell you that much. But either way, you'll see Neely here in about 15 minutes. You'll not see me for the rest of the week, but you'll see me next week, both here on Overwatch and, of course, every other game that I cast for, because I apparently do too many. But we'll see you guys in the next one, and thank you very much for joining us.
Hey man, I just can't find a comfortable headset. I mean, I've tried everything. Literally everything.
Jeez, my brother. I got you.
The HyperX Cloud 2 Wireless. Legendary comfort goes wireless.
That is comfortable. Hey man, I just can't find a comfortable headset. I mean, I've tried everything. Literally everything.
Jeez, my brother. I got you.
The HyperX Cloud 2 Wireless. Legendary comfort goes wireless.
That is comfortable.